Hello, this is Case Dragon with another video. Today I'll be going over the slaying task section of how to gain Skyblock XP. To start with, we are going over the first one, slaying task, slaying level. So here I'm at Maddox, and of course you have up to level 9 in all slayers except for the Vampire Slayer, which only goes up to level 5. Start to go over Revenant and why you should get these levels up, as well as the XP. So they all give the same XP per level, going from every level 1 giving 15, level 2 25, 3 gives 35, 4 50, 5 75, 6 100, 7 and is 125, 8 and 9 give 150. Now, Zombie Slayer, I would highly recommend, even early on, try to get as far as you can to level 7, as there are things to get from here like the Reaper Mask, Zombie Artifact, and other things that you might want, as well, accounting the Revenant Minion, Devour Ring, and some other quality of life things that you might want to use. Many people will go for level 8 as you get the Reaper Orb, Axe of the Shredded, and Warden Helmet, which are very commonly used, as well as the Health Regen and Bartender Zombie Rib Mixin, which are nice to have for extra stats, as the Zombie Rib Mixin will give you an extra 10 ferocity when imbued with your God Pot. Level 9 is mainly just there for the XP and the tier 12 minion, which is going to be later in the game that you'll want those. But you are probably going to get them because you want to set your RNG use this meter to Warden Heart, as it is worth a couple 100 million coins at a good price, at a low price, around 70 million. So you will want to be dropping that, or maybe you want Shards of the Shredded, as they're still around 15 mil at the current value, or Scythe Blades at 8 mil. The next layer is Tarantula Broodfather. I would highly recommend getting at the very least level 7. Many people take this Slayer for granted and only get it to level 6 for their auto Slayer. However, getting 7 is very useful as you get a free rare accessory right away called the Survivor Cube. You don't even have to craft it or anything. It just gives it straight to you for 5 vitality. There's also the Spider Artifact that you can use, which is another upgrade of the Spider Ring. The Mosquito Bow isn't as useful, but it is also a thing you unlock here. Level 8 is very useful when you're trying to go for your Alchemy 50, as 10 Alchemy Wisdom will make a big difference. Spider Egg Mixin only gives you 5% dodge chance, however, I would still recommend getting these into your God Pots, as that will help you surviving in some things. Level 9 doesn't give anything, it's only there for the Skyblock XP. However, you can still make a decent amount of money dropping Tarantula Talismans and Fly Swatters on your way up there. I would suggest putting on your meter on the Tarantula Talisman, as it is the exact same base drop rate as the Fly Swatter. However, the Tarantula Talisman is worth more money. And the next layer here would be the Sven Packmaster. This one I'd recommend getting level 7. Level 8 only really has these couple perks. The large Slayer Sack recipe. The perk it gives is useless as long as you have a booster cookie on. And the Mixin, however, though, is very good to giving you 7 magic find on a kill if you one tap. Now, these levels here, I would recommend the first milestone kind of being level 4, as you get massive armor, which you can either use to help you kill tier 4s if you are not doing so well, or you can use it for campfire trial to get your accessory up, and healer milestones inside of dungeons. After that, the next milestone I would say is level 6, as you unlock the Mana Flux Power Orb, which is very useful to have, and it will definitely outclass your Radiant Power Orb. After this, you have the level 7, which will give you Overflux Power Orb and Plasma Flux Power Orb usage, as well as the Hunter Talisman and Ring, which are a couple more accessories, giving you extra combat wisdom to help you level up your combat level. Of course, you probably want to have your RNG's meter on the Overflux Capacitor, which you are almost guaranteed to get before level 9. However, if you are unlucky, you might still need to get a couple 100,000 more XP to fill your meter up. No other drop here is really useful to put your meter on. However, you can get a lot of hamster wheels and furballs on the way to level 9. Next up, there's the Void Gloom Slayer, Enderman Slayer here, which has, of course, 9 levels. Each perk is actually useful, and getting level 9 is very beneficial to you. To start with, of course, everyone knows that at level 5 you have the Juju short bow. On the way there though, you have Final Destination at level 4 and as well as a Voidling minion. There's also the katanas you can start using. I would recommend to make their bosses easier, as soon as you get level 7 or level 3, even if you have a better damage dealing weapon, the Void Edge Katana, still craft this, as the 200 ferocity you gain works on any weapon, not just the Void Edge Katana. So you can use this and then swap to whatever your higher damage weapon is and deal a lot more DPS, making tier 2s, 3s, and 4s much easier. After that, there is, of course, Final Destination Armor, which make it much easier for you to survive, and the Voidling Minion, which can make a good amount of money. This, unlike the other Slayers, though, you do not simply get this, you just get the recipe. After that, at level 5, you get your Juju Shortbow, the Soulflow Battery, and Soulflow Engine over here, which are going to be upgrades for, well, this one here is an accessory, this one it goes in your minion. And then there's also going to be the Vorpal Katana. With a high enough magical power, you should be capable of doing tier 4s with the Vorpal Katana, as long as you are able to survive. And then, of course, you have the Juju Shortbow and the Gloomlock Grimoire, which is very useful for tanks and healers inside of dungeons to prevent them from dying. Level 6 has a couple quality life items known as the Gyrokinetic Wand, which is used often in dungeons and other late game activities like Kudra for tanking any dropships and other attacks. There's the Aspect of the Void, an upgrade is the Aspect to the End. The upgrade itself doesn't do much other than reduce the base mana cost by 5. However, many will still go for this as it is much better looking than having the sword in your hotbar. Furthermore, there's the Atom Split Katana. So if you were not able to do enough damage with the Vorpal Katana, you can now get yourself an Atom Split Katana, which will be able to make you a lot easier for you to do tier 4 bosses. The Synthseeker Scythe is another utility item people mainly use for Kudras in the Infernal tier to phase skip the animation to get to the final section. At level 7, everyone knows you have the Terminator. There's also the Ender Relic you can get, which is an upgrade of the Ender Artifact. There's the Ether Warp Conduit if you want to Ether Warp with your Aspect of the End, Aspect of the Void, or you can simply use it as an item on its own. And then you have the final upgrade to the Soulflow accessory, getting it to Epic Rarity. Now, at level 8, you have the perk here, which is the 15% chance to find RNGs, enchants, and super pairs, which is something you should be doing every day, doing your experimentation table. And with this perk, it'll increase your chance of dropping books worth 70 mil, 100 mil, maybe even just 40 or 10 mil. But that'll help you make more money every day just by doing your daily excess enchantment table. At level 9, you get the perk of plus 15% chance to find rare creatures, meaning Zealots, Inquisitors, elusive mobs into the Trapper quest, and Vanquishers on the Crimson Isle. This is very good if you grind Zealots for money, or if you just grind them to make that extra cash while you're doing your Enderman Slayer. Inquisitors are, of course, going to drop you your Chimera books during Diana. The elusive Trapper quest is going to be helpful if you're trying to grind out your tier 12 farming minions, and Vanquishers for grinding out your Nether Stars in the Crimson Isle. And the good RNG meter everyone should know is the Judgment Core, and you should only be passively dropping your Exceedingly Rare Ender Artifact Upgrader and Ender Slayer 7 book, as they both are worth a lot less than the Judgment Core, despite being a lot rarer. The Enchant Rune is also slightly rarer than the Judgment Core, just a little heads up, but it is still worth around 5 million coins, which is around the price of the Artifact Upgrader. The next layer, of course, is going to the Rift Stalker Blood Fiend. I can't really show you this until I go into the Rift, so I will go back to that later. The Inferno Demon Lord here is going to be not very much of a useful Slayer until you're in the end game, as the only thing you can really get out of here until very end game upgrades is kind of just the Droplet Wisp pet for some bit more pet score. Aside from that, there's not really anything at level 2 except for daggers to do tier 2 kills. Level 3 gives you a Warning Flare, which is not very useful as it only gives you 10 Vitality and 10 True Defense. You'll still be better off using an Overflux or Plasma Flux, which is probably what you should have at this time. The Burst Dropper Talisman is too expensive to be getting this right away if you're only level 2, and upgrading the Wisp Pet is also going to be very expensive. At level 3, you can get the Infernal Minion, which at tier 1 is pretty cheap and is not that hard to craft. Same with the tier 2, so you can get some pretty good unique minion slots. However, getting to level 3 is where it gets to be very expensive, or something that's not going to be worth it at the time. Now, at level 4, you will be gaining the ability to get these tier 2 daggers, which if you are able to do the boss correctly, you should be capable of killing tier 4 tier 4 with these, as well as on tier 1, you could potentially do tier 3 bosses. So, at level 4, you also get the Demon Slayer Gauntlet. This is really useless, especially for how much money this costs, as this is over 60 million coins in molten powder. The Teleporter Pill, which is also very expensive, as you need 2 Inferno Vertexes right now, which are worth 40 million coins. And the Travel Scroll to the Smoldering Tomb, which is also very expensive, needing 4 Inferno Vertexes, costing you way too much money for what you can get. At level 6, you can get the tier 3 daggers, which are also going to be insanely expensive, as you need 16 Inferno Vertexes, or about 700 million coins at the current price, as well as another stack of Molten Powder, which is 40 mil. There's also the Alert Flare. This is what is starting to be good for Blaze Slayer, as 20 true defense should allow you to remove some of your sour armor pieces and replace it with higher damage dealing armor, and then you should still be able to survive with the vitality and true defense. The ferocity will also help you deal extra damage, and you should be able to regen enough mana with the 50% base regen. Lastek Ham Radio, of course, is a very expensive one, as it takes 24 Inferno Vertexes and almost 2 stacks of Molten Powder, as well as a stack of Enchanted Redstone Lamp, which is the cheapest part of this craft. Furthermore, you'd have to have 2 people with this, so it's not really worth it to get. Now, at level 7, you get the Burst Stopper Artifact and upgrade to the expensive Burst Stopper Talisman, which costs 2 stacks of Molten Powder, by the way. I didn't cover that earlier. And then you need another 2 stacks of Molten Powder to make it into the Artifact. After that, you have the Wisp upgrade again, which is very expensive. The Annihilation Cloak, which is an upgrade to the Destruction Cloak, which is a very expensive thing still, as you still also need a stack and a half of Molten Powder. And to make it to the Annihilation Cloak, you need another 4 stacks. Basically, a lot of expensive upgrades, including another 8 Inferno Vertexes. The final thing here is the SOS Flare, which is better than the Plasma Flux. However, many people would argue it is not worth getting, as you need Inferno Vertex, which is worth over 2 billion coins, as the mod here I have is capped out at integer limit, plus another 16 Inferno Vertexes and 2 stacks of Molten Powder. Wilson's engineering plans sell for around 8 to 10 mil, so that is pretty cheap, as well as you also have the Alert Flare, which was another 16 Inferno Vertexes and a stack of Molten Powder, making the SOS Flare worth 3 to 4 billion coins. Many people find this not worth it. I do not have access to level 9 because I'm only level 7 right now, but at level 8, it has a very useless perk, giving you only 20% pet XP from feeding Wisp with Gabagool, which will help you up if you want to finally upgrade your Wisp from uncommon further up. I would recommend waiting to level 8, as you will get extra pet XP. And that should be all for those. Alright, the next section here in the slaying task is going to be the boss collections, where you have your 7 different bosses here from the dungeons, and there's also going to be Kudra. To start with, I'll go over the floors. Now, obviously, there's not as much to get on the first 3 floors, as they only have 6 different milestones, giving much less XP than anything, also the first floors. Afterwards, though, you start getting more, as it's just getting up to 7, and then 7, and then 7 milestones, giving you an extra whole 25 Skyblock XP, making them more worth it. However, you still do have to grind more to get to them. To start with, I'll go over these ones. You'll probably, if you're playing early game, you might have to do a lot more floor 1s. You might wind up getting yourself the Bonzo Mask Collection. Now, a lot of the ones from Bonzo are not as worth it to get, as this is only 1 million coins, and this is only 700,000 coins. Bonzo Staff is a decent amount at 4.8 million coins for only 150 floors. However, what I personally did is I did most of my floor 1s to 3s in master mode, and that's where I've got most of my boss collection. Of course, Recombobulator is going to be pretty good at 7.8 mil, and then there's going to be the Diamond Head, which is not worth very much for Bonzo, as it is the only floor where even with the double stat on its own floor, a diamond Necron head or probably even a golden Necron head will be better. Now on floor 2 with Scarf, there's going to be your Scarf Thesis here, which is 4.5 mil at the current value. Since the Rift, it has gone up from Scarf Studies costing less than 500,000 to a mil. It has increased the price cost of this. Now there is also going to be the Golden Scarf Head, which is worth 700,000 as well. However, this is actually useful for M2 or just floor 2. After that, there's Adaptive Blade, which is only 1.1 mil, as the only real use for this is putting it into your museum, as it is such a garbage weapon that even when floor 3 was the highest floor, nobody used it. After that, of course, Recombobulator and Diamond Scarf Head. This one can actually be worth something more than the Bonzo Head, which is probably maybe 50 mil for 1,000 runs. Next up, there's the Professor for floor 3 and M3. Giving the Suspicious Vial pretty very, very cheap, less than 100,000 coins. Then you start getting some adaptive armor pieces as the leggings and chestplate, which are really just used for museum after you have Shadow Assassin armor. And then there's the Golden Professor Head, which is actually worth 4 million coins, as people use it a lot for M3, as they can drop Master Stars over there. There's of course the Recombobulator again, and the Diamond Professor Head, which is worth over 137 mil, because again, people like to run Master Mode floor 3 to drop Master Stars and Recombobulators for money, as well as the Catacombs XP gives. Now with Thorn, a lot of these are going to be expensive, as many people dislike how long Thorn takes as a boss fight. The Spirit Stone might still be pretty cheap, only at 1.2 mil, which is much better than floor 3 though, but the Golden Thorn Head is worth 4.1 mil. The Spirit Bow is worth 5 mil, mainly because this isn't very useful except for as a spirit item or in your museum once you have a Juju Bow. It is going to be better than using your Dragon Short Bow, but once you get to Juju Bow, this is going to be very worthless. Because the Juju Bow has a half second shot cooldown, whereas this has a 0.06 seconds, making it a lot slower. Once again, you have the Recombobulator, which is unlocked every single dungeon floor at 250 completions. Next up, there's the Spirit Boots, which are not bad. They used to be better for cheesing through the three secret trap, as you would just start flying, run in, and fly up. However, since that is not used anymore, I'm not sure what people use these for. However, they are worth 3.84 mil. Diamond Thorn Head is going to be probably worth around a couple hundred mil, as it is very hard to get with how many few people run M4 or floor 4. Now, after floor 4, of course, we have floor 5 with Livid. This is where you're going to have Dark Orb, Golden Livid Head, Livid Dagger, Recombobulator, Last Breath, Shadow Assassin Chestplate, and the Livid Head. Now, of here, Dark Orb is not as useful as it is giving you the Shaded Power, which does do a high amount of damage, but you could probably get something else, although it is still useful to get that for the Skyblock XP. There's, of course, Golden Livid Head, which is 1.6 mil. And then you have the Livid Dagger, which is a very good weapon to use early on in the game until you're able to get a Giant Sword, Valkyrie, or a Dark Claymore. This is going to be a very useful melee weapon for you to have. Next up, Recombobulator, and then Last Breath. This is commonly used on M7 and Kudra boss fight on Infernal Kudra, as this is very useful for killing them. It also can be used on floor 7, commonly found with a duplex to shoot extra arrows, so you don't have to shoot it as many times. This can be very useful if you are struggling to do enough damage in a limited amount of time for any boss that takes arrow damage. There's also, of course, Shadow Assassin Chestplate, worth 17 million coins, as people like to wear Shadow Assassin armor until they can get to Necron. Then Diamond Livid Head, going to be worth a couple 100 million coins. After that, you have Sedan right here, where you have the Giant Tooth, which is only really needed for tank reforges. Golden Sedan Head, worth 4.6 million, as floor 6 is a pretty popular floor on Master Mode and normal floor. Necromancer Lord Helmet, this is a very useful part of the Necromancer Lord set, as the boots and leggings can be used for mages, however the other pieces aren't really used. Seeing as you can use Wither Goggles of some sort to replace the helmet, this is the most worthless piece. But there is also the chestplate. However, many people would rather use a perfect chestplate than the Necromancer Lord chestplate. The Necromancer Sword is outclassed by the Reaper Scythe, as the Reaper Scythe can hold 3 souls. There's no point in using the Necromancer Sword as a melee weapon when you can just use your Reaper Scythe as a dungeonized item. At level 7, of course, you have the Diamond Head, which is also worth a couple 100 million coins and is very useful when you start grinding M6s. Floor 7 has Wither Blood here, which is for the Withered Reforge on a melee weapon, which is really good, which is why it's worth 2 million coins. This is a good collection to grind out, as almost everything here is worth a lot, like the Golden Necron Head being 36 mil as opposed to everything else, which was less than 5 mil. The Wither Helmet is still worth 3 mil, not as much as everything else in this collection. But then, of course, Recombobulator, Wither Leggings at 5.7 mil, Wither Chestplate at 11 mil, and of course the Diamond Necron Head at 300 million coins. This is by far the best one to grind if you want to get money. However, I would also recommend grinding out floor 6s, as you can make a lot, and floor 5. Those are the best ones if you're looking for money in boss collections. Next up, there's also the Kudra boss collection here, which mainly just gives you essence, Kudra teeth, and an upgrade to your Kudra pet. There's not much else to be gained here, and it should be known that every tier of Kudra you kill is worth 1 plus all the tiers behind it. So basic is 1, a hot is 2, burning is 3, fire is 4, and infernal is 5. So you do not have to do 5,000 Kudra runs. You just need to do 1,000 infernals, which of course you're not going to do just infernals. But that is a lot better than seeing the number 5,000. Alright, so the next section here is going to be the Bshare Progress. This one is very useful to grind early on before you hit combat level 60. As I've mentioned in some previous videos, this one right here will give you 1,000,000 combat XP every other milestone on the even ones, which is going to get you a lot of XP for leveling up pets. I would highly recommend making sure you have a non-level 100 pet on, or just maybe some XP one like the wolf pet is also going to be useful if you just want to get your own combat level up. Now, using this, you can get your, as I mentioned, pet level up and your combat level up. I would highly recommend making sure that you do Bshare grindings early on and just get a couple levels, as the first couple will only take you a few hundred kills. Like you can see right here, Zombie Villager 4 with only 260 kills. That is very easy to do, and it'll only take you a couple minutes, and you can do the same thing with many other mobs, especially with having the deep caverns with a lot of mobs. The Spider's Den, the End Island doesn't have as many, but there are still a couple. The Crimson Isle, when you get to that point, there are a lot of different things to grind in there, like the mini bosses. The park has 3 different ones you can do. I would recommend, if you are doing Sven Slayer, to rotate between wolves in the hub and the park so you can get your bestiaries up for that just a bit extra of XP. There's also the Spooky Festival mobs. I don't have these very high up, but during a Spooky Festival, you should at least get it to level 1, as that is not going to be too difficult to get. There's, of course, Catacombs, so running any amount of dungeons, you will be getting access to a lot of different bestiary milestones. The next section here is going to be the mythological tasks, which have entirely based on Diana. However, I would recommend getting these, as it may only be 1 Skyblock level, but in this process, I would first of all recommend getting your Enderman Slayer level to 9 for the extra Inquisitor chance. But in this process, you have a chance of dropping Chimera Books, Daedalus Sticks, and Minos Relics, which can be worth a lot of money. And it is recommended to get these done during Diana, as you can only get up to 10,000 kills, and it is going to take a while to get to 10,000 kills if you are not going at it multiple times. I mean, there's Diana. The next task will be slaying dragons, and there are 7 different dragons to kill, which you can look through them through the Lone Adventure on how many kills you've got, highest ranking, fastest kill, most damage, amount summoned, and summoning eyes contributed to these. And the best way I'd say to get these is, of course, you have your dragon shortbow that you should get through the Lone Adventurer's quest, and kind of just maybe grind out some zealots here, enderman in there, or some zealot bruisers. And if someone is spawning a dragon you haven't killed before, make sure you get some hits on. You might want to rush if it's a superior, as many high level players with terminators will be rushing there as well. Alright, the next task comes to the killing of different Slayer tiers. To start with, I will go ahead and show these three and how they are not too difficult. For this, I will be using my lowly enchanted aspect of the void. It should not have too much. I am just going to use this light, strong dragon armor. My equipment will be completely empty other than my rift necklace here. And for my accessories, I have gone with, since I have such a high magical power, I set it to protected, as I will have a lot lower stats, setting me to having 784 strength and 377 crit damage. I will be demonstrating a tier 4 of each of these slayers. I hopefully am not going to be doing too much damage with these for an accurate representation. Let's see, for here I'm doing, maybe that is too much, 70,000 damage. I should find another sword. Alright, I will instead use this Sword of Bad Health here, which is completely clean, so I'll be doing only 20,000 damage, which is a much better amount for me to demonstrate on, as I want to show that you do not need a whole lot of stuff. I am also not using any pets at all. It is completely off. I do not have any pets on, so none of those are boosting my damage. I want this to kind of represent if you had a decently enchanted at least Raider's Axe, and of course still having this dragon armor, either strong or old, whichever you need better to survive. You can still manage to kill stuff here, as I am doing enough damage. You may need to do slightly different. If you are struggling on the surviving part, I would recommend giving some version of the Wand of Atonement. There are lower levels of the Wand of Healing and other ones. And here, I'll just cut to when I spawn the boss. Alright, so here with the boss spawn, he has, of course, 1.5 million health. A good recommended spot would be over here in a corner, and just anywhere. And as you can see here, I'm already going through his health as he is almost at 1 million. If you are struggling on here, again, make sure you have a Wand of Healing, as that will help you to survive way better. And try to keep in a corner if you are taking knockback without a shelmet. And you can see here, he is getting very close to being dead. 20,000 damage is not too bad as a percentage of his max health. And you can see here, he is about to die. And there we go. You can kill a tier 4 with just 20,000 damage as long as you can survive it. Alright, I decided to not show a Tarantula as it is going to be pretty similar to Rev, but I will show a Sven as well. This is where I would recommend doing it, is in the water. And make sure you have Death Strider 3 on your boots, so that way you can move much faster than the boss. And then all you need to do is just make sure to hit him while keeping him away. However, you do still want to let him hit you every now and then. And if he does too much damage, make sure you use your wand to heal you, so that way he does not get you killed. As you can see, even with my higher stats, he does still actually hurt me when I let him hit me. He takes away almost 4 of my hearts. I know when I've done this before on a brand new profile, he was taking around over a half of my health, so I would highly recommend using a wand to tank him. But you do still need to make sure to let him hit you, otherwise he will fully heal and you will have to restart your boss's damage. So as you can see here, it's still not too bad of a kill time. The Revenant, of course, was 40 seconds. We'll see how long this one can take, as the pups keep getting in my way. It's kind of messing up with me hitting him, but here he's not really able to hit me a whole bunch. And there we go. That boss there took just 1 minute, but it is still a kill and will get you your Skyblock XP. So I would highly recommend trying out this strategy. If you're early game, there's not really much of an excuse to not kill one of these tier 4s. Void Gloom, the best I can recommend is making sure you have a zombie sword, and of course, again, a Wand of Atonement. If you're struggling with surviving, this is where I would recommend getting your level 7 in Zombie Slayer, as the Reaper Mask will be doubling your mending and vitality, which will significantly increase your healing amount. You can also get more Necromancer souls, as that will allow you to go through hit phase much faster. Blaze Slayer, I'm not going to give too much tips other than using Sorrow Armor for a bunch of true defense, as these guys give you true damage based on your health, as the tier 4 here will do, in the end, 50% of your max health as damage per second, and it's also true damage, so you're going to be taking a lot of damage. It's very recommended that you use at least a Sorrow chestplate and leggings, unless you have a alert or SOS flare, or with the new Bubba blister accessories from the Rift. There is also this one right here, as it gives 50 true defense. You can replace some of your armor pieces with some higher damaging ones. Now, Kudra boss tier is one you can really grind easily, although it is very helpful to get, as each one will give you 20 more Skyblock XP than the last, going from 20 to 100. However, in order for you to enter these, you have to have a certain amount of mage or barbarian faction reputation, depending on which faction you're in. Basic tier, of course, you don't need any. 1,000, that's pretty easy to get, and these two tiers are pretty much the same, as all you have to do in a hot tier is the same thing you did in basic tier, but make sure you do more damage with the chunks before you use the ballista, so that way he is at least at half health. Burning and fiery are very similar. You will need someone to stun Kudra by going inside of his mouth. There are plenty of guides you can probably find elsewhere to how to stun and how to do the rest of the boss, but basically everyone else will want to have a Terminator and a Precursor Eye, and they're just going to shoot Kudra when he's been stunned. Infernal, it has the same thing as Hot, but with, again, even more health, and then he has a fifth and final phase where you finally kill Kudra. If you die in that phase, you will be final killed. However, these are still very helpful to get Skyblock XP, and I'm not going to be giving any specific guides on how to kill the bosses. The final task here is to kill Arachne. This is something you don't really need to do on your own of spawning him. You can just have someone else spawn him and kill him, just like killing the dragons. So you can just kind of wait around while doing your Spider Slayer for someone to spawn Arachne. They're more likely to spawn tier 1. However, tier 2, you do also need combat 15 before you can fight it, but it is going to give you another 40 Skyblock XP. Alright, I know this video was a very long one, however the slaying tasks have a lot of in-depth I need to go into. I know I did not cover any of the Vampire Slayer in the Rift, however I will be planning on making a video to cover a lot of the Rift content later. For now, I hope everything else covered in this video was helpful, and I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like and subscribe, and you have a good rest of your day.